this will therefore mean that we can continue because apparently I'm seeing there are people who have already attended, and therefore we can continue with the whole thing, hoping that others are going to be able to join us on the way. Great. I think about Arduino, we are so excited to share with you the knowledge about real-world programming using Arduino, as you can see. And with Arduino, probably we are going to talk about the foundation of the Arduino. Maybe some of the areas we'll be looking at generally are highlights of what is Arduino, how do you deal with Arduino and stuff like that. But we'll take you through. It's not about probably a very strict procedure or a way of going through. Being the first day, we are going just to take you in a very flexible manner. But it's worth noting an amazing statement from one of the people in the tech industry, that when you add software and hardware, awesome things really happen when code and the machines come together. And this is the beauty of coding using Arduino, because we are bringing two things together. One is software and the other one is hardware. And this is just quite amazing. We'll see amazing things will happen during the course of our training, because we believe that when software and hardware meet together, there's always a beauty, there's always magic, there's always something very, very satisfying at the end of the day. Great. So we'll start straight away with going to our first idea is, what is Arduino? What is this thing we are calling Arduino? And as I've mentioned earlier, we are talking about the hardware, or rather the physical objects that we can be able to see. In most of the cases, they are basically the metal or the chip, or you can see electronic boards. So when we talk about Arduino, we'll be talking about the electronic boards that exist. We're also going to talk about the development environment, or the software, or the area where we're going to do the coding. And we're also going to talk about the various support that we're going to have, because when you code, coding is not about you alone. Coding is about something we can collaborate and work together through. Great. So Arduino is about the hardware. Remember that too. Arduino is about developing software, or rather coding, and Arduino is about the community which support you as you move through. There's a lot of tons and tons of material that we are going to share about Arduino, and therefore this one brings us to the hardware part. So what is this thing called Arduino? And whenever we talk about Arduino, this is the common picture that comes in the minds of people, because it is the board, the microprocessing board, that allows us to be able to probably to add some code, or to code it, or to give it instruction to help us solve wonderful problems in the community. Remember, coding is about problem solving. It's about collaboration, it's about creativity, and it is all about doing what we love so much. So this is what we want to go through. We want to look at this board, and we want to talk about the board. That is what we are probably here to talk about. So simply, what is this thing we are calling Arduino, and how does it look like? This is the board we want to discuss during this particular meeting. If you have time. Correct. So let us look at the board keenly. This board, it may be looking like this is the only board we are talking about, but otherwise we have different boards that we have Arduinos, different types of Arduino. They are all called Arduino. So you may think you may only have one kind, the similar one at the corner here, but which is called Uno, but we have Mega, we have Lilypad, we have Arduino BT, Arduino Nano, Arduino Mini. All these are used in the different projects. It is all dependent on what project do you want to pick, and where do you want to start. So that ensure you know that there are different boards. It's not only one board that can be used, and it all depends on the project that you people will be picking. If you think you want to do something probably around the clothes that you want probably to be able to see, then you'll be able to be using LilyPad. Maybe Mega would want to do things that needs more pins. You can see, as you can see, it has many pins. We'll see later how these pins, or rather the areas that allows you to put more wires. That is, if you have a project that requires that you do a lot of connection, then you'll want to go for a Mega or a bigger version of Arduino. Then think about the Nano, which is just so small. Probably your project is just a small thing that you want to really just use to come up with a project that would use this. So again, I want to repeat that when it comes to Arduino boards, everything depends on your project. So it's all about your project that will give you the flavor. Once again, we're just talking about the different boards that exist outside there. So there are many versions, but they differ on size and probably the power or microcontroller. And again, this should be taken that it only differs based on the project that you want to come up with. Okay, maybe let me take you through again and say, this is like the major ones that are always seen. This is Uno. At a close range, we can see the Uno here, and at a close range, we can see the Mega. The Mega one, you can see it's written Mega inside, and then the other one is written Uno, and you can be able to tell by the way you can be able to see that happening. So there's the Mega and there's the Uno. So probably it is good to note that they are different. Look at the number of pins. The number of pins are just too many in the Mega one, and the number of pins are a bit not that many, because here you can see all the way the numbering goes up to around 53 pins. But here we are talking about only 13, or yeah, 13. So this one tells you that definitely there is a small difference in the number of pins that probably we are going to be using in this particular session. Great. Maybe now I'll go straight to the next one that deals, and I think I've said again, the choice of Arduino that you want to use depends entirely on your project. If you go to the website, and I've been able to pick at least the website here, part of the website I've been able to pick here, it is, again, you'll be able to see the Arduino product, and you'll be able to see the Uno, the entry level, especially when you're beginning, you'll be able to look at the entry level, and the levels are here, the Uno, there's Leonardo, there's 101, there's Explorer, all this, there are so many, you can see there are so many Arduinos that are being used in this particular, they're all found in the website, and there are others which are being developed as we are speaking. Great. I think maybe after that, let me now take you straight that Arduino, if you look at it again, it is about, it's the board, and you can see there are so many pins inside, and there are also pins the other side. There are, in fact, for the Mega, there are pins all around, and this one tells you quite a lot about these pins. Probably I may not be able to draw, but I think it is good to note that there are pins that can be used probably to, let me probably get some point, the pen here, so that you can be able to see. These are the pins I'm talking about, and these other pins are here. You can see. And for the Mega, you can be able to see these pins. There's so many pins around here. These pins, and then you can be able to, if you are able to read closely, you will be able to see that there are others which are basically written like analog, and the others are written digital. So we want to see what is this thing we are calling about analog pins, digital pins, and all that. But remember, everything in Arduino, we are talking about analog and digital. Remember, when you talk about real world and adding now software and hardware to come up with to come up with something working, definitely we'll be talking about analog and digital signals. So here we are, as we have talked about the analog. Let me now talk about these things of input and output. So Arduino, whenever we are doing programming, definitely we need to have inputs, and the inputs here are probably the commands we are giving it, or maybe the signals that are going into Arduino, or whatever thing that Arduino is picking from probably the environment. Whenever you are writing a program, remember, it's all about the commands that are going in, and then the impact or the outputs are actually what you want Arduino to do. So whatever, depending on your projects, we'll be very careful to look at the inputs. So we'll be able to help you how to design and program inputs. At the same time, we are also going to support you in how to design and program output. Like we know Arduino you may want to do a project around probably farming. Let me give an example of farming and smart farming. What do you want Arduino to do? Probably to be able to detect how the plants are doing. What is the temperature in the planting area? What about the humidity in the soil? Think about anything that probably happens in the farm, and bring that information as input to Arduino. Then output, what do you want to happen? If, for example, the farm is in an enclosed area, you may want, if it is too hot, you want the fan to move on, the fan to be turned on, so that at least the whole thing becomes a bit cold, or the temperature is regulated. Or probably you want an alarm, or probably you want the water to be irrigated, automatically the water to be poured, so that the plants are getting to be watered automatically. Those are the things we're talking about, the output and the input. So the input here in this case is the information we are gathering from the farm. What is it? Is it the higher temperature and all that? And then the output is, what do we do? The reaction, what can we do whenever this thing really happens? So those are the things we want to see. Let us all just take it literally like that for now. Probably later we'll be able to see it in a different way. So we are talking about generally the output and probably the input. We have talked about that, and at least it's very easy. It's very, very important you really know that the whole concept of programming hardware or real world object is to be very keen on ensuring that you capture whatever input goes to the microprocessor and whatever output that comes out, so that you know what actually will happen, the activities around it. Maybe we'll learn a lot as we go. This may not really make a lot of sense for now, but let me pick the next tool. So in Arduino board, definitely we are talking about digital and analog input signal, and then digital and analog output signal. So you will run a project that requires that you put input that is digital, or do an output that is still digital. Probably something that's turning on the light, which is probably digital, or turning off the light, or putting on the water, or making kind of noise louder or softer and stuff like that. So all these things will come into your mind when you see an Arduino in a particular way. So, and the whole thing is done. I want us to go back to the board and see that what really translates and gives meaning to all these things I'm talking about. Probably you put this board inside a smart farm, and you are expecting it to receive the digital input, okay? And then this digital input, you want to use those inputs to do something. When you're doing something, then output is expected to come out. And what really processes all this? What is the power? What is the brain in this board that enables this one to take place? And that is where we are coming up with, you have to really need to know the microcontroller, this long thing. I think maybe in some Arduino format that probably you're going to have in school, as soon as you get this object, you may find that this is not the way it is. Probably it is smaller than this long one. Maybe this is too long, but the other ones are probably smaller. But all in all, there is a microcontroller, like the brain that processes the input and then brings out the output, the desired output, and all that. And all this they are going to start making sense as we look around. Let us also probably look at the other parts of the board that you may want to be able to see. Remember, this is more of an overview, an overall overview, and a very a bigger picture. In our upcoming webinars, we are going to go into detail on especially the coding and what really happens. So in the real picture, we can see this is the Arduino. There's the USB port. I think this is where definitely, as we are going to learn, is where we can power, and we are going to use it as a USB to connect to the computer, where we're going to write the programs and then upload those programs to the board using the port. Then we have the controller. We talked about the microcontroller. This is the one that processes the whole thing, as you can see. You can see it here. This is the one that processes the whole thing. We talked about that. Then think about other things. I think we've talked about the pins. So you can see these pins are here. There are all number of pins. There's so many pins here. But particularly, we have just taken these ones that you've seen, the ones that have been indicated in yellow. Those are the digital pin, and you can see they are 14 in number because they're starting with 0 all the way up to 13. Then we also have probably another thing that I really need to put across. The other pins are on the opposite side, which are analog, and then we have power pins, and then we have the power input. Probably in the later slides, we're going to really show you this in detail. Great. I think maybe we go to the next, and we'll be able to pick in probably each and every. I've talked about the USB port. That one is used to upload when you want to upload programs into Arduino. You use it. Sometimes, if you don't have the software to upload, probably you'll want to use it specifically as the power source for you when you connect it to the computer. So it becomes the power source. That is the USB port. You will see it in many space. Great. The next one is, of course, we want to look at there's a button on the board. This is usually for resetting the board. In case things are not working, you can reset the board to the default, the way it looks like it is new. Again, there's that reset board. Then another thing, again, that you really need to find about in the board, you'll also look at the voltage regulator. This one over here is the voltage regulator, because you never know the kind of power you are putting in to the Arduino board, but whatever it is, this is the regulator that really checks the voltage coming in. And then we have the power connector. In most cases, some of your project will require that the Arduino is taken away or disconnected from the computer. So you will have to look for a power source. The power source can be the battery, or you can get it plugged into the wall to get the appropriate power with the appropriate adapter, which I think we'll be able to show in further videos. So I think that one would be good to work with. And then I think maybe the next one we'll be talking about is the digital inputs, as we've talked about the pins. We've talked about the pins. In the normal UNO, I think this is the one which is in the schools or which you'll be using in your projects, but you're not limited to taking others. Remember, this is for learning and for education. You will actually look at all these pins, and then they begin with the 0 and ends with pin 13. And these are the pins that are called digital pins. So you will plug in baby gadgets or components that are digital in nature. And then, but one thing I want to mention, that these are just referred to as digital, but you can see even the others that has some small tilde sign on them, you can also connect others around them. Great. Maybe I think the next one is looking at the analog pins. These are the pins that I use to connect gadgets that require analog. Analog, I think maybe it's in the next video I'll be talking about, in the next slide I'll be talking about what analog and probably digital would actually represent or mean. I think very, very fast, so that at least you know the digital and analog, the difference between digital and analog things. When we talk about digital, we are actually talking about all physical things, the ones you can touch outside. They are basically, we calling them analog. It means that the value is either minimum or maximum. It's either on, I mean, they have minimum values and they have maximum values, and all along there are various variable values that can be seen all along the way. For example, temperature. When you look at temperature can be either 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are many values. When you talk about analog, we're talking about a a range of values. But when we talk about digital, we're talking about either only two values, either on or off, or we are talking about either on or off, or 0 and 1. And in the example that I'm putting here that can really give you an example is in the alphabet, we only have 26 letters. So there's no letter between A and B. It is either A or B. It's either C or D. We can't have a letter in between. That one has not been there as much as probably we want to have. So that is where the idea of digital comes in. Great. I think maybe these are just, again, high-level introduction to all this. But the moment we start working on projects and giving you hands-on, we will be able to show you much about this. Great. Probably I'd want to give a break and look at probably some of the questions that you've really shared online, and then probably I can continue after a break of maybe 5 minutes. Then we can look at more aspect of the board, because today we just wanted to talk about the board. We are back. Apparently, the question, what is the importance of Arduino? Okay, good. I will be answering that shortly. Thank you, Stacy, for asking such a wonderful question. That is Stacy Masikonde. Probably another question that is around here. The importance, I think, what is the function of Arduino and all that? Okay, good. I think that's what we are going to next. At least you have now seen the board. We have known the board mostly, and we are going to take you to that particular level. It's good that you're asking such brilliant questions. Good. So we've talked about the different parts. I want to bring your attention to this. There's also another component on the board, which is green LED. There's a light, that light emitting diode. You'll find it somewhere here. This just to indicate that the Arduino is powered. It is on. It has power. Its power is reaching it, so you'll always be seeing it there when it is okay. It is there. Then probably we go to the next one, which is basically you can see the yellow. They're also light emitting yellow. You'll see this yellow thing. This one always happens whenever there's data exchange. Either the data is being exchanged from probably one item to the other, or maybe the data is coming in, or whenever you're uploading your program, which is called Sketch, as we'll learn later, you will see these lights blinking. They naturally don't really have to be on all the time, but you'll see them making some kind of a blink, turning on and off immediately to show that data is getting in, or there's a bit of communication or taking place. Great. The next one, I think, we'll be talking about this other light also. You'll find it here. It is always connected to pin 13. So this pin and this LED are all connected. So you might always see the two. They are always connected. So this one will be lighting. So if you connect to pin 13, if you are connecting your project and you're connecting on pin number 13 here, definitely know that whatever the thing, if you are connecting maybe an LED to light or something to put on and off, you'll always see the effect on this LED or this lighting emitting diode. This is particularly put here to work to indicate to you that probably your program is working as desired. So you can use it many times to debug or to remove an error from your already working program, as you are probably designing something or programming something or coding some aspect. So this is very important. You can be able to know that. I think maybe somebody's asked about Arduino, why Arduino, or what does Arduino do? And there are definitely things that we can talk about Arduino, that especially the microcontroller. Where are they also found? Maybe somebody can look at that and see. I like comparing what is